Since the fallout from the GFC, investors and fund managers have grown increasingly wary of traditional fixed benchmarks to effectively measure equities and portfolio performance. In the final video of Legg Mason's Advisor Education series, we speak with Tad Fetter, Director and Head of Business Development at Brandywine Global, to discuss the challenges facing global fixed income managers in the Trump era and the benefits of adopting an unconstrained, benchmark-agnostic investment approach.
I think global fixed income managers going forward have a tough road ahead of them. Very similar to the past few years where it's been difficult to reconcile low rates with deflationary pressures and performance. I think going forward, now that we've reached our secular low in interest rates in this path to renormalization, we'll be assessing when is the inflation pressure overcoming the deflationary pressure, and how do we really be able to generate returns in this kind of two-step forward, one-step backward renormalization. Unfortunately, we're not going to have this instantaneous recovery or reset where everything's back to normal, where interest rates are normal. People have been increasingly wrong-footed by thinking now is a bad time to be in fixed income, particularly post-global financial crisis. And so I think the important part is being invested in global fixed income, but being in the right approach and being active and not allowing that index to determine that the characteristics of your fixed income portfolio, which does appear risky due to its construction logic because of indebted nations, high interest rate risk, low yield. That divorcing yourself from that mentality and looking for where there's value and being able to concentrate your portfolio into where there's value and avoid where there's not value or where there's risks still gives you an opportune time to invest in fixed income. In order to address the benefits of unconstrained investing, you need to understand the risks or the disadvantages of constrained investing, and a lot of that comes with really deconstructing how indexes are constructed. The first one is their market cap. So if a country issues more debt, an index provider rewards them with a greater representation on the index. So I don't know about you, but people that have more debt, I don't necessarily want to lend them more money. The second part of that would be respect to interest rate risk. So a lot of these markets have engaged in quantitative easing or manipulation of their yield curves, and as a result they have lower yielding local bonds. So if there's any renormalization, the bonds or backup in rates, the bonds that have the greatest duration weights are going to sell off the most. It's actually just a recipe for capital destruction. And the third part, which is really even more counterintuitive, is if you view the index as a risk-free rate or a platform for portfolio construction, as those currencies move up and move higher and higher into their valuation levels, a manager that's adhering to that index is buying more and more of it as that currency becomes increasingly more and more overvalued. So rich valuations oftentimes have more likelihood to fall. And so what we try to do is really focus on, number one, where are the greatest interest rate valuation opportunities in the marketplace? Where are the greatest currency valuations in the marketplace? And those valuations are more or less to look for, in a long-only framework, cheap and in defensiveness relative to the overall macro view, and then also relative to the stronger kind of fundamentals that support that macro overview as well. Most fixed income investors or traditional fixed income investors, as we discussed earlier, are talking about, where is the index and how do I tilt one way up or down based off my relative value views of that index. And what we do is we start with where is there just the ability to generate return and avoid downside or putting capital at risk. And that focus on return generation and an avoidance of really risky or rich valuations and interest rates and currencies is really what provides us the upside in return. The other element, I think, is really more or less the ability to deconstruct where is their value in the marketplace. And I think our process that reconciles the valuation element with the macro element is far better suited to provide that upside and really understand where there's actually opportunities as opposed to risks. Since inception, it's running about an average annualized return of 9+%. In 5 years, it's about also 9%, and I'd say for 3 years, it's probably come down a little bit less but in the ballpark of 7%. We've been able to do that really by finding the greatest valuation opportunities out there, not only in developed markets, but also in the emerging markets, and then pairing them depending on our macro views, and then in utilizing currency where appropriate as well. The strategy is strongly rated by both the global and local research houses very well. And I think it's increasingly gotten better ratings due to the fact that there's been this move to unconstrained investing, and we're a recognized house that started really doing this at its inception in 1995 versus just turning on to this idea now that it's in vogue.
Thank you for watching this advisor education series. To learn more about Legg Mason's unique approach to fixed income investing, visit leggmason.com.au.